Hey, Donnie, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. I'm so excited to be talking to you today. Such a legend in our industry in just a few short years. And so we're going to talk with Donnie here in just a minute. Hang tight. We're going to be right back. All right. All right. So, well, to start us off, Donnie, I know, we were talking about, and I've been watching your journey on Facebook. You just built a house, moved into a new house, and we were kind of joking about that's a good thing for realtors to do every once in a while to understand and be reminded of what our clients are going through all the time. So, boy, I know it's a journey doing that. So,
It's been a lot of work.
I know. Congrats on getting in your new place. When you go
Thank
the
you.
old route like you did, that's a whole nother level for sure.
All
Yeah.
right.
So why don't we start here? Let's, just give me maybe just what got you into real estate? So you've been in it 9 years now, right? You got back in 2013. What got
Yes,
you into
ma'am.
it?
Yeah, so interesting story. I was pretty successful in another industry and actually left that industry to become a police officer. Took a huge pay cut actually to do that, but I wanted to be a police officer and give back to my community and serve. And honestly, I needed to pay my house note. And my goal, I needed $1,500 a month, and I didn't want to go get a second job. I already had a boss. I was used to kind of being the boss in my old industry. Now I got a whole bunch of bosses called citizens. And the last thing I wanted was to go get another boss. So I said, you know what? I literally went to my first broker and said, man, can I make $1,500 a month part time? I actually intended to be a police officer for 20 years, supplement my income with real estate. And then when I retired, I figured instead of going and finding another career when I'm 55 or 60, I would just use real estate to then supplement my pension. But it didn't work out that way and ended up becoming a full-time realtor pretty quickly. And the rest is history, so to speak.
Well, that's interesting. So I kind of started out thinking that I would be, kind of work along the side of my corporate job. And I realized very quickly, which it sounds like you did too, real estate's not really a part-time job. It's hard to do it part-time. So when you jumped in and got going, like how many homes did you sell your first year? So your goal originally was just hey, I need to make $1,500 a month. So how many homes did you sell your first year?
So my first 12 months in business, I sold 16.
Okay, well, that's really good. Coming out of starting a new year. First year in real estate. An interesting stat just came out with NAR. I'm sure you saw like 8% of the realtors in 2022 just sold 4 houses. Right, that was interesting to me. So that puts in perspective, even if that's lower now, I think than it used to be. But it puts in perspective, even coming out selling 16 your first year is fantastic. So kind of when did, now you're doing like 130, 40 million plus a year, right? When did you see the momentum change? Like what did you do the second and third year? When did the momentum kind of really start changing for you?
Sure. So, I was on a pretty strong trajectory. So I don't know if there was a momentum change, but obviously once I made the decision to be only a real estate agent, I hate to say go from part-time to full-time because the truth is I was working a lot more hours in real estate than a lot of people who were full-time agents. I was more dual career than part-time. It was not unusual for me to work 7 to 3, change clothes in my car, go to a listing appointment at 4, show houses from 6 to 8, and go home and write offers at 9 o'clock at night, right? And then get up the next day and be back on the streets at 7 a.m. policing again. And did that for about 18 months. So obviously, after that 18 months, I went full time. And that was a big shift because then I could actually focus 50, 60 hours a week on real estate versus having to do it kind of as that secondary thing. So that definitely made a big shift. But, over the years, the goals change. And there's a lot of big shifts. It's kind of weird that I've had a pretty much upward trajectory. I've never been this guy that went from 100 down to 50 or 200 down to 100 like I hear about some people doing. And there's so many things. There are certain steps along the path, right? From going from part-time to full-time obviously was a change. going from being just me to hiring an assistant. Obviously, there was a change. Going from an assistant to now I'm going to have buyer's agents and shift more of my focus to just doing sellers. There was a change. And even this year, for the last 6 months, we brought on basically a sales manager or a chief operating officer, and we've gone from 4 people on staff last year to 9 people in the office now. So we expect to see some big changes coming up here in the next year as well.
Nice. So let's move back to. I'm getting some feedback here. I don't know if this is on my end or I don't know. If
I'll turn my volume down a little, see if that helps.
Okay. Yeah, that seems to help. So maybe let's take a step back. This is a 2-part question. And so because there's going to be newer agents listening to this, there's going to be experienced agents listening to this. So what would you say is the best advice that you would give a new agent? They're just trying to get going. I mean, if we see houses in their first year, they'd be probably thrilled to death, right? So what would be the best thing that you would share if you're a new agent listening in here?
So I've got what my team calls Donnieisms, which are little things that I say. And one of my favorite ones is work works. And it does. My daughter who works for me keeps threatening to get pins with my face on them with Donnieisms on them. We'll see how that goes. I think it might be a good idea. But work works. The best advice I can give you as a new agent is take action every day. Don't sit around and twiddle your thumbs. Take action to learn how to sell houses, be doing something just like a job, spend time in this business every day. Don't sit around wondering why your business isn't taking off. Now, there's a myriad of actions you can take. I don't know if we can even get into all of those on this. Of course, I'm happy to name a few if you want, but that's the most important thing is you have to implement. You can learn everything you want, but if you don't implement, none of it matters.
That's right. Touch on a couple of those, if you would, because, I think a lot of agents do get into this business and they come from a W-2 background, right? They're not entrepreneurs. And it's a whole different mindset shift, really, when you come into running your own business. Nobody's telling you what to do. Nobody's telling you, hey, you got to get up and go do this, right? There's nobody that's forcing you to do anything. And I agree with what you're saying, like work works, right? But, and I remember when I got into real estate, I wanted to be a sponge. I learned everything. I was doing anything and everything I could and, just to generate business. And, back in the day, I've been doing this 24 years. Back in the day, they used to have the old Holmes books. And I remember just being out at a restaurant. And if I saw somebody at a table, my husband, I'd be out and I'd see somebody with a book, I'm going up and talking to them. That's the other thing. You can't be a secret agent. Like you got to talk to anybody and everybody. But share a couple of things that you would say, like, hey, these are a couple of specific things that I would do. If I was getting in it today, this is what I would do to get my business rolling.
Definitely. So now I'm a little old school and new school. I believe there's no such thing as a bad lead or a bad lead source. So I can only tell people what I started and what I coach agents on if they're starting up from scratch or my solos in my branch office, whatever the case might be. Number one, get your sphere of influence together. Get it together, get it uploaded into a CRM. Whether you're going to reach out to them quarterly, email, postcard, whatever you want to do, at a minimum, do a client event once every quarter. You don't have to call them and beat them over the head with a lockbox for business, but you do need to have a relationship. And to add to that, the biggest mistake I see with people doing that is they call them one time, they don't have any kind of reminders, no follow-up, they never do anything else. And then they're like, well, I called everybody, nobody had anything to buy. Well, it takes more than one time. It takes a little bit of effort. And then to make it worse, that person goes and uses a different realtor 3 months from now. They're like, I can't believe they did that. I called them one time. Well, you've got to be doing something to build relationships with people. So I'm big on starting people off on sphere of influence because it's not expensive. There's so many fun ways to do it. It's so rewarding. I still say there's nothing more fun than helping a friend buy a house in real estate, and it really sets you off on the right foot. The next thing I would add into that, obviously, start your social media right away. Get on video, start it. Why? Because when you call those people and they're checking you out, or maybe 6 months from now, they recommend you to someone else, you want to have a social media presence so that you have some proof that you are a real estate agent that is active, that you have some competency in your working. So those are probably 2 of the first 3 or 4 or 5 things you need to start doing to get your name out there in front of everybody. Again, you can't be a secret agent, so you've got to do that. I've probably had 7 people in the last 10 days that I've met working on my new house or working on my old house. Literally, my lawn weed guy got out of his truck the other day and I pulled up and he said, "Are you Donnie Morrow? You're everywhere. I thought that was you when I saw the name." I have no idea who he is. And that's happened to me, like I said, probably 5 times in the last 10 days. And it's because I've been out there building that social media and because people refer me and I'm active and just not a secret agent, trying to do everything I can to get my name out there.
Yeah, I agree. From a new agent perspective, when you're coaching a new agent, what do you recommend, like number of people in their sphere? What's the like you need to have this many people that you're.
So I've always found that you can convert 6 to 10% a year. So if you have 100 people, that should be 6 to 10 deals for you next year. If you have 200, that should be 12 to 20 for you next year. I don't know that there's a maximum. Some people say that there is a maximum. I believe if you've automated it and you do it properly, there's probably not a maximum. There will obviously only be so many in there that you have a close relationship with, but that doesn't mean that you can't still stay in touch with more people. For example, we've sold over 2,000 houses. Well, if I just said, well, the max I can have is 300 people, what am I going to do with the other 1,700? They already trusted my team. They already know us, like us, and trust us. We did an amazing job for us. We're just not going to follow up with them anymore, make them find somebody else next time. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's a great point. And so when you go from, the 5 or 10 houses a year, now let's talk to the agents that are like, okay, they're selling 15, 20 houses a year and they want to take it up. And before I go there, I'll go back to what you commented on video. Like, I think that's huge now. Right. I mean, I do not like I don't think any of us like being live, doing a Facebook Live or what have you, but I just think it's important. And so I 100% agree with you on that component of it. But let's go to, the agent that is doing, like I said, 15, 20 homes a year, but now they want to get to 40, 50, 100, or more like you're doing. What would you suggest is maybe 1 or 2 things to take your level from 15, 16 houses a year on up to, 30, 40, 50 plus?
Sure. So I think that becomes a little bit more complicated. You've got to look at what you're doing and make an adjustment there. There could be any number of things that have that agent at 15 or 20 or 25. It could be that they're at the max of their bandwidth. Hey, if you're a single mom and you're out there doing 20 deals a year and you're killing it, but the truth is you have maxed out your bandwidth because you got 3 kids at home that you got to take care of or whatever the case might be. And I use that example because I've had some amazing and still do have some amazing single moms on my team. And it always amazes me how they outproduce people who have it much easier than they do because they have something to work for. But if you're a single mom and you're selling 20 a year and it's all you feel like you can do, you might need an assistant. Now, that's a little early for most people, but for you, you need to increase your bandwidth. How do you increase your bandwidth? You hire an assistant. By the same token, maybe you're somebody who is doing 18 from your sphere of influence. You're like, I got plenty of bandwidth. I got plenty of time to work. Well, you might need another lead source. Maybe you need to add some Google advertising on. Maybe you need to add more social media. So it really kind of depends on where they are in their business. Normally, I find that it comes down to a bandwidth issue or lead issue because they didn't get to 15 or 20 or 25 by accident. They know how to work. They know how to at least somewhat treat it like a business because, by the way, I think the number is like only 3% ever sell 25 in a year, 3% of the agents. So they're already in the top 97%. So what is the difference between the 96th percentile, right? And 98, it may be one lead source. It may be one assistant. It may be one system in your business. That's something to where you probably need a coach or somebody to look at your business and give you a little bit better guidance. But I just think that's a little more complicated. What is it that your business needs that you are missing to take yourself to the next level?
Yeah, good point. And you mentioned earlier about a CRM. I mean, that's the first system that agents have to have. It's interesting, even being around the business as long as I've been and having other agents around me that's been in the business for many years. It's interesting how many agents don't have a CRM, isn't it? Like,
or they don't use it. And sometimes even high producing agents, I've come across agents for coaching that maybe they're selling 50 a year. Also, what CRM you using? My phone.
Yeah.
Well, that's not a CRM, but there are even some people. Now, just imagine if that person can sell 50 without even a CRM, how good would they have done if they just had those basic tools in place?
Yeah, completely. So, you and I haven't talked about this. I'm gonna put you on the spot. So, I assume, well, we'll preface it by saying you coach some of the highest level agents in the country. You're coaching teams that are doing 150 million plus, right? So, but I want to step back. Did you have a coach? Did you hire a coach somewhere along the way? And when did you hire your first coach?
Sure. So I actually hired my first coach when I still had another job.
Oh,
So I've had a coach from very early on when I really didn't think I could afford it, but I wanted to learn as much as I could and be productive. That was probably a few months before I did go into only doing real estate, but I've had a coach pretty much my entire careers. I've switched companies. I've gone through a lot of companies, and I've learned something from all of them. Some of them much better than others, but I believe in it. I mean, the highest paid people in the country are actors, and they all have coaches. The next highest paid are athletes, and they all have coaches. If these high level athletes, if Kobe Bryant had coaches, and not only did he have coaches on his team, but then he had side coaches that he paid himself also. If Kobe Bryant needed that, why in the world would little old Donnie Morrow not need it?
Yeah, I'm with you. No, I've heard like Michael Jordan. I've always heard these high athletes, they all have coaches. And I'm a big proponent of it as well, right? For those same reasons, because my line I say all the time is, I don't know what I don't know, right? Even myself being in the business 24 years, and I'm sure you're seeing this, man, don't you feel like in the last couple of years, not even because of the pandemic, but it's just really because of technology. Like I feel like the speed of what we're needing to learn is like, I mean, it's like you learn something new today and something new's out tomorrow.
It's never ending.
I mean, it's just never ending, and I just feel like it's getting faster and faster and faster with technology. Like first there's what, Facebook, and then you got Instagram, and now everybody, you got to be on TikTok. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like every time you just get one down, here comes another. And that's where coaches, I think, can help you navigate, first of all, not getting pulled off track, trying to do and be and do it all. Because that's easy, I think, as an agent, to, see the next shiny object and want to jump that way. Right? And then now here's another new object and let's go that way, and not really have a plan in place. And I think that's where coaches, come in so valuable, is to help you create the plan and then stick to the plan.
Absolutely. And honestly, the higher level you get, the coaching changes. And it's not like when I'm coaching somebody who's selling 300 houses a year, it's not like I'm telling them they have to get in their CRM and make calls. They got to that point for a reason. They know how to produce. They know how to sell. Honestly, it may be as simple as saying, hey, I want you to start taking a lunch break, because they might need their life back. It might be as simple as saying, after 6 o'clock, turn your phone off, or after 7 o'clock, turn your phone off, whatever your business can handle. But you'd be amazed sometimes how valuable just those little tweaks are, even at higher levels.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Because this business, especially as you, and I was victim of this my own self, like as you really, start building your business and get busier and busier, it will suck 24 hours a day out of you if you let it.
Absolutely.
And if you're not intentional and you don't have somebody like you're talking about, a coach or somebody to say, you know what, like, no, just turn your phone after 6 o'clock. There's nothing in real estate. Somebody told me this a long time ago. There's nothing in real estate that happens after 6 or 7 at night that can't wait till the next morning.
Right.
But how many of us during, building our career, how many of us were that agent that, you're out to dinner with your family, or you're home, at dinner with your family, and one of your clients call and you're like, oh, I've got to grab this. You jump up and you go grab it. That's just so easy for us to do. But, that was one of the single best piece of advice I got, like there is nothing in real estate that can't wait till the next morning, after.
Absolutely. I can remember I had a great agent on my team, and she's still local. We're still friends. I think she's working for some other agents now. I don't think she's really selling much. But she said she didn't have any life. And then she told me a story about how she showed houses on a Saturday after Valentine's Day, and her husband took her out to Valentine's Day dinner that night. And she chose to get up from Valentine's dinner and go out to her car and get on her computer and write an offer. Now, I admire her work ethic and I admire her commitment to her client. That's why she was very successful as an agent. but she also wasn't long-term in the business and didn't want to be because of that kind of stuff, because she put other people's needs way before hers sometimes, which is awesome, right? It's hard to find people like that. She's amazing, but you also have to have a boundary there as well.
Yeah. I agree. I mean,
don't write offers when your husband takes you out to Valentine's Day.
Not to Valentine's. That may not go over so well for the rest of the night or week for that matter. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember a long time ago, one of my clients said, Kathy's the hardest working person in real estate. For many years, I wore that as a badge of honor. And then I realized that's not really a badge of honor that I should even want to have,
Hey, I still struggle with that one, Kathy. So.
Well, it's not necessarily a badge of honor that is good. Like you've got to have the balance. We've got to create the balance there. So, you had mentioned that you were with a few different companies, and a couple of years ago you made the move to EXP. What I guess the question I want to ask is, like, what pain were you having that caused you to even make the move to EXP, and what's EXP done for you since you've made that move over?
Sure. So I had actually seen EXP maybe 2 years before and didn't come over. At the time I saw it the first time, I had just moved to my other brokerage, so I didn't want to move again. They had a convenience office space that was 5 minutes from my office. I had a great split. I had a good deal. Things were good. Couple things happened. Overall, I was happy there. Good brokerage, not a major issue there. But the big thing that I said, my coach said, "Hey, how much do you pay your company?" And I said, "Well, for me, I got a great deal. I sold 300 houses, so I only paid them like 20 grand." He said, "Well, that's pretty good." He said, "Well, how much did your team pay?" And I got to thinking, I was like, "Well, $300,000. And he said, "You do know you can run a brokerage for probably 100 grand and split the rest of that with your team and give them better splits, right?" And I said, "Well, that's an interesting concept. Let me think about that." So I literally set out to open up my own brokerage. And what I realized as I set out to open my own brokerage was that most people, including the brokerage that I was at, because it was opened by a team leader, their business went down by 30, 40, 50% for a couple of years as they opened that brokerage, because it was a lot of work to try to make that brokerage work. And I also realized that NAR puts out that the average brokerage only makes about 4% profit, which means if they sell 10 million, they're making like $40,000 or something. And obviously teams are much more profitable, and I already had a very profitable team. So I kind of came back and revisited EXP. So I was kind of like, man, I think EXP will support me in a lot of this stuff, but also give my agents a much better split, save them some money, give me what I'm looking for as well. And so I came back and revisited EXP. And honestly, it did do all that for me. But the ultimate selling point was I had these single moms and single dads on my family. And when I looked at my own brokerage and what I could offer the agents, I could not offer them what EXP offers. I could not provide them with a rev share opportunity with stock. Maybe someday, way down the line, I could. But I didn't necessarily know how to do any of that, and figured it would take away from my production, and generally thought this was the best option for all my agents. My very first broker, who's been in business with the same brokerage for about 40 years now, called me and said, "Man, I've always considered us friends. When somebody like you makes that move, I got to ask why, if you don't mind telling me." And I kind of told him that story. He's like, "Well, that's pretty impressive." Now, he's still with his company. I don't think he's going anywhere. But that's really is what it came down to, is I could build an asset for myself that maybe I could sell for 7 figures 10 years down the road, but my agents would still be stuck where they were.
Yeah, that's so good. And that's just one thing I love about you, because it's not about you. It's about, like, what's the best for everybody. What's the best, for your agents. One thing I feel like when I saw EXP 5 years ago, I thought, in our industry, we just never set our agents up for retirement plans or exit strategies in our business. And when I saw that model, I thought, man, this is a way that we can help a lot of agents be able to, like you said, get out of the business one day down the road. If they were agents that didn't build a big team like you.
I hope I didn't.
What? Did we lose you?
Oh, we're having a few technical issues. I think we're back now.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what happens when you're live. So when you're live,
That's right.
you're not telling what's going to happen.
That's all good.
Yeah. But what I was just saying is, that's the one component too, like that I saw when I saw EXP is not only we can help a lot of agents, right? Whether you have a big team like you had and you wanted to offer your agents the same things that you were being afforded to do, but you couldn't give that them yourself, but also just the tools and the ability to, set themselves up for retirement one day. Because,
absolutely. And if you're going to run a team and you're going to help agents be successful, to me, at least in my area, it is the only brokerage I know of that is a natural extension from that. So what I mean by that is we truly are helping agents succeed anyway. If you look at the national average of real estate agents, 6 to 8 houses a year, the national average for agents on a team is 15 to 20 houses a year. So it's obvious we're helping them produce at a much higher level. A lot of people may poo-poo on teams or whatever you want to say. Maybe they had a bad experience. I get it. Some people start teams and aren't great team leaders because there's a difference between being a great real estate agent and a great team leader for sure. Not everybody should be a team leader. Yeah. But if you're already helping them succeed and you're already helping them, grow in an industry where a lot of people fail, why not have EXP as the extension of that not only now can I help you succeed, whereas what's the number, like 87% don't renew their license after 2 or 3 years or whatever. But now I've got 90% that do renew their license after 2 years, maybe 95%. But then in addition to that, I now can help you succeed long-term and actually have a retirement as well. So for me, it's just a natural extension of what I was already doing to help benefit the real estate industry.
Yeah, 100%. 100% agree. So in just closing here, is there any anything that you would want to share with our real estate community, right? That maybe we haven't kind of touched on that, again, all different level of agents are going to be listening here. And so what additional words of wisdom or inspiration would you pass along?
Kathy, the market is shifting, right? And we were both at Build not long ago. And the bottom line is, if you've been doing 5 or 6 a year and getting lucky based on the sheer volume of what's out there, and you haven't had to work on your skills, you haven't had to role play, you haven't had to practice, you haven't had to have a coach, that may change. So whatever you do, if you want to be successful in the real estate industry, don't sit idly by and whine about the market and go out of business. Take action, get with someone that can help you, whether it's an upline in EXP, whether it's a coach that you go hire, your broker at your brokerage now, hopefully they have the ability to help you. Whoever it is, take action to improve your skills, build your value proposition so that when this market shifts, you don't get as this market shifts, you don't get left behind.
That's right. And one thing that I forgot to mention in the beginning is you were just named the #1 listing and sales agent in August for the whole state of Tennessee. So congratulations, ladies.
Thank you. Yeah. So, and certainly a lot of that is my team. I empower my agents on my team to take both buyers and sellers. We don't put them into a particular hole. So we are one of the highest, listing team, obviously, in the state, and who knows for how far, but I'm real proud of what they've done. They've done a great job and they're all awesome agents. So.
Well, it's because and I'm going to put your contact information in the comments here. So if anybody wants to reach out to you to just talk to you, about being a part of your team, if they're in the Memphis area, we're talking to you about EXP. And, if you know Donnie and you have any questions about that, reach out to him. I mean, if you know me, feel free to reach out to me. We just want to help empower realtors to, #1, take their business to the level that they're looking to take their business to, right? And if you have any questions that either one of us can help you with, just don't hesitate to reach out. And Donnie, I appreciate you so much. You're such an awesome guy. And like, ever since I've gotten to know you a little bit over the last couple of years, like you do such high volume in real estate, and you're a giver, and you are just so humble. And, I love just being in partnership together with just people that, what do they say? Surround yourself with people that are even better than you, right? And that's how I feel being around you, the times that I'm able to be, around or even have any conversations with you. So I appreciate you just sharing with the real estate community all that you do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, Kathy. I've definitely enjoyed being here at EXP and the organization. So glad you all have had me. And you mentioned being in the room with people that are doing more. And we've talked about coaching. I coach with Club Wealth, and people ask, well, what's the coaching? You mentioned it earlier, and I'll circle back to that a little bit in closing. And oftentimes people say, well, what's the biggest thing Club Wealth did for you? And I always tell people it's expand my horizons. Regardless of the technical stuff, regardless of the lead sources or scripting or habits or scheduling or whatever, it's always been the lead sources. When I got with Club Wealth, I had about 6 or 7 agents on the team, and we were considered a big team at that time. Well, now I have 45 agents on my team, and one of my solo agents in my branch office has 10 agents on his team, and I think he's the 5th or 6th largest team in Memphis. So I think we have 2 of the largest 5 or 6 teams in the city here, but it all comes from being in coaching and having that vision that, hey, 6 isn't a big team, 106 is a big team. And then when I get to 106, hopefully I'll say 1,006 is a big team, right? So there you go. Expand your visions, expand your goals, and certainly feel free to reach out to me if anybody needs any help.
Yeah, if you especially, I'm glad you brought up Club Wealth, because they're one of the most respected, I think, coaching companies out there. And so they coach every level of agent. So yes, if you wanted more information about that and getting into the Club Wealth coaching, just reach out to Donnie and he can definitely get you connected. So thanks for that.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Kathy.
Thanks, Donnie. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, buddy.
All right.
Bye-bye.